Good morning, brothers and sisters. It's Friday, last day of the work week. Well, if you're working, now you have 2 days off after today, at the end of the day, usually. So anyway, here we have March 11th, and we have world news. I'm going to go through this quickly, just the headlines, and it's going to be 20 pieces of news here. From the JewishPress.com, U.S. lawmakers call on EU to put all of Hezbollah on terror lists. U.S. lawmakers urge the EU to designate a terrorist organization the entire Hezbollah, not just its military wing. In a letter to European Union Ambassador to the United States, David O'Sullivan, U.S. representatives took the EU to task for pretending there is a legitimate political wing of Hezbollah. The EU has labeled Hezbollah's military arm as a terrorist organization, distinguishing it from the group's political wing, which is not so designated. From Reuters, Reuters, Kim Jong-un has already just fired two missiles out into the ocean there. But now he wants to fire more. North Korean leader Kim orders more nuclear tests. A ballistic rocket launch drill of the Strategic Force of Korean's People Army, KPA, is seen at unknown location in this updated photo released by North Korean's Korean Central News Agency. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un watched a ballistic missile launch test and ordered the country to improve its nuclear attack capability by conducting more tests, the official KCNA news agency reported on Friday. The report did not say when the test took place, but it was probably referring to North Korea's launch of two short-range missiles on Thursday that flew 300 miles and splashed into the sea. And that seems to be a dead site. Now, from Arut Sheva in Israel, it says, op-ed, can the UN legally impose a solution on Israel? The EU and the UN want to substitute corporate imperialism for national imperialism. A movement is afoot to get the UN to predetermine borders between Israel and the future 23rd Arab state and to recognize East Jerusalem as its capital. Such predetermination would be in violation of the roadmap, which calls for a negotiated solution where negotiated implies freedom to say no, and such predetermination would prejudge the outcome, which the world never tires of telling Israel no one can do. From Chick Publications, battle cry, am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Galatians 4:16. The Pope wants to talk to you. Jesuit Pope Francis continues his crusade to pull all the religions together in a recent prayer video. He stated most of the planet's inhabitants declare themselves believers. This should lead to dialogue among religions. It would be the complete opposite. The world is turning to more sin, more sodomites, more transgenders, more Satanists. Just everything is turning away from God. So he's actually saying the opposite of the truth. But then what would you expect from the pedophile Pope? More and more the world is looking for simple solutions to complex problems. The Pope is playing to this ignorance, hoping no one will notice the vast differences in what people believe in. A Muslim believer dedicated to conquering the world for Allah can hardly develop effective dialogue with a Jew who believes that the Temple Mount belongs to Jehovah. Only the grossly ignorant can be seduced to believe that Torah and the Quran came from the same God. But the Pope is following a familiar playbook. In the U.S., Roman Catholics started by collaborating with supposedly Bible-believing evangelicals. And we know who that is. On common concerns like abortion and care for the homeless. Now, recent polls show that over half of evangelicals are convinced that the Pope is a brother in Christ. However, when the pollster poses questions about accepting Catholic theology, more evangelicals were not so sure. In the above video, images are shown of people expressing confidence in Buddha, believe in Allah, in Jesus, and a Jewish man stating, I believe in God. That's this one right here. This is chick.com. Found it very interesting. Reuters, Russia to ship first S-300 missile system, to Iran in August and September. Now, this comes right after Russia admitted that Iran had shipped these S-300 missile systems over to Lebanon. The terrorists, Hezbollah, who I just was speaking about, should be declared terrorists by the American legislation, but he was just Israel let Russia, Putin, know that Iran had shipped these S-300s over to the terrorists, Hezbollah, in Lebanon. Okay, and he says, I'm going to stop selling you any of these S-300s. Okay, so now he's decided I'm going to sell them to you in August. See, so why would he be selling? Why would he, President or Putin, leader of Russia, why would he be even pretending to be Israel's friend and protector? That's what he does. He talks to President, Benjamin Netanyahu, and then at the same time selling missiles to Iran, who wants to wipe them off the face of the earth. Crazy. You got to admit, that's a crazy thing. Now, he just admitted that he was going to stop selling them to him, but now he's changing his mind again. It must have been just less than a week ago. First delivery of Russia S-300 missiles since defense system to Iran will take place in August or September this year. RIA news agency on Friday quoted Sergei Chemizov, the head of Russia's industrial conglomerate Rostec, as saying. RIA quoted an unnamed source earlier as saying that first S-300 missiles would be shipped to Iran already in February. Well, there you go. From Reuters also, advisory story on U.S. frigate sale to Taiwan withdrawn. The story headline, China angered as U.S. approves frigate sale to Taiwan is withdrawn. It was issued in error from an old U.S. State Department press release. There will be no substitute story. From The Guardian, FBI could force us to turn on our iPhone cameras and microphones, says Apple. The beast forming? Eddie Q warns precedent set by San Bernardino case could lead to company being forced to turn users' smartphones into surveillance devices. The FBI have demanded Apple's help to brute force the passcode of the San Bernardino's killer iPhone 5C. Now, this is a Muslim terrorist, man and wife, who, gunned down, I think it was like 33 people, and 14, I believe, died. If the FBI wins in its case against Apple to help it unlock the San Bernardino killer's iPhone 5C, it won't be long before the government forces Apple to turn on users' iPhone cameras and microphones to spy on them, according to the company's head of services, Eddie Q. All part of the Obama program to bring in the terrorists and then deem the rest of us terrorists, but actually not really. It's the Christian Bible believers, King James Version only, who are deemed as high-risk terrorists, and actually it is those who believe that the government is spying on you are extreme terrorists, or that you question the government. You can't do that. Okay? This is a totalitarian government forming, and you don't question us. Otherwise, you're deemed as a terrorist. Associated Press says nearly 200 cases of Zika now in U.S. Officials press for funds. New York, nearly 200 cases of Zika infection have been reported in the U.S., all traced to travel abroad. Health officials released the numbers Thursday and pleaded for Congress to provide $1.9 billion to fight the virus in Latin America and help prevent it from spreading to the continental U.S. Yes, in South America, Zika is just going like wild cases. It's going terrible. I don't know what the numbers are. It's terrible right now. It's really just attacking the South America, all of that area. U.S. claims capture of IS chemical weapons expert. What's this about? IS forces have been blamed for a mustard gas attack in Iraq last year. Well, I do like mustard on my hot dog, but I don't like mustard gas. The Pentagon says it captured a chemical weapons expert from the so-called Islamic State and obtained key information for air strikes. A spokesman said Suleiman Dawood al-Bakr, also known as Abu Daoud, had been caught in Iraq in February. The Pentagon said the capture had removed a key IS leader from the battlefield. The U.S. says it has begun more aggressive operations against IS in Iraq. Well, that's hard to believe after what you've done there, Mr. Obama, for all these years. Moving on, another BBC News report. South Sudan woman raped as reward for fighters? Are you serious? Bunch of dogs. South Sudan's army has been accused of suffocating more than 60 people. Just suffocate them to death. Militias allied to the South Sudanese army have been allowed to rape women. They've been allowed in lieu of wages while fighting rebels, a UN report says. Investigators found that 1,300 women had been raped last year in oil-rich Unity State alone, it says. Well, if you can't get money, you can get sex. The army operated a scorched earth policy to deliberately target civilians for killing and rape, which amounted to war crimes, the UN said. The government denies its army targeted civilians, but says it is investigating. We have rules of engagement. We are following them, a spokesman for the President Salva Kiir, Adani Wek Adani, told the BBC Newsday program. Next up from the Jerusalem Post, Middle East, as federal Syria idea is floated. Russia says Kurds should have spot at peace talks table. There are all sorts of different models of federal structure that would, in some models, have a very, very loose center and a lot of autonomy for different regions, diplomats says. Moscow says Russia is convinced that the United Nations peace mediator on Syria, Stefan de Mistura, should take a decision on including ethnic Kurds in Syria peace talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Friday. That Jerusalem Post loves to mess up. The man for physical gold silver will break the system. Rigged democracy. Nearly 10% of Democratic Party superdelegates are lobbyists. Rigged Democratic? Now that'd make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? On July 25th, these super delegate cast votes at the Democratic National Convention for whomever they want, regardless of primary and caucus outcomes. Democrats like to describe superdelegates as mostly elected officials and prominent party members, including President Obama and former Presidents Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter. But this group, which consists of 21 governors, 40 senators, and 193 representatives, only makes up about a third of the superdelegates. Many of the remaining 463 convention delegates are establishment insiders who get their status after years of donations and service to the party. Dozens of the 437 delegates in the DNC member category are registered federal and state lobbyists, according to an ABC News analyst. And if you don't know what a lobbyist is, it means they are connected to businesses. It's all about money. Now, why is this up? Okay, moving on. From Politico, it says here, Gingrich, Obama sending his contempt for Reagan with funeral no-show. By not attending the funeral for former First Lady Nancy Reagan, Newt Gingrich says President Obama is sending his contempt for the Reagan presidency, his hostility to the Reagan ideology. You know, we see over and over again Obama having zero respect for so many good soldiers and presidents of the past. Newt Gingrich on Thursday ripped into President Barack Obama's decision to skip the funeral of former First Lady Nancy Reagan as saying as a contempt and hostility toward the presidency and ideology of Ronald Reagan. I think that you should never assume that Obama does anything by accident or by some shallow reason, the former Speaker of the House and 2012 presidential candidate said on the Mike Gallagher show. From Newsweek, G forced to sell off operations in Israel as BDS claims victory. A Palestinian runs after Israeli security forces fired tear gas during clashes against Israel's military operations in Gaza. Ofer prison near the West Bank city of Ramallah, November 15, 2012. G4, which supplies security technologies to the prison, is selling its business in Israel in what it says is a purely commercial decision. G4, the world's largest security firm, is selling its entire business in Israel in a move that it said on Thursday was for commercial reasons. The global boycott, divestment, and sanctions BDS campaign has claimed that it was responsible for the decision because of its pressure it applied on the British firm. There you go. More and more going against Israel now, economically attacking Israel. Greece to seek break in debt repayments to creditors. Greece will seek a break in bailout debt repayments as part of negotiations with creditors expected in the spring. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said Thursday a debt relief deal would allow Greece to emerge from years of recession and near zero growth. Tsipras' left-wing government has quietly dropped demands made last year for a partial cancellation of bailout debt. What a mess Greece is, isn't it? And a couple left here. 4.6 magnitude earthquake was in central New Zealand today. And Ben Carson backs Trump, saying combative billionaire has cerebral side. Now, I've always liked Ben Carson. Not everything about him. At the scene, and well, let's play the 24-second video here.
And it was very interesting. I was with Dr. Ben Carson today, who's endorsing me, by the way, tomorrow morning, and we spoke for over an hour on education, and he has such a great handle on it. He wants competitive schools. He wants a lot of different things that are terrific, including charter schools, by the way, that the unions are fighting like crazy, but charter schools work, and they work very well.
Well,
as far as Putin is concerned, I think Putin's been a very strong leader.
Okay, that's another video popped up. So, well, if Trump is, if Ben Carson, one of the world's smartest black men to ever apply to be president, who did not make it into the race, really, he kind of lost right out, but who's a known, supposed to be probably the best surgeon, neurosurgeon of the world, and is just very smart, extremely smart, puts God first too. I don't believe he's exactly the same faith as a true Christian, but very respectable, very sharp man, has decided to side with Trump. Maybe he's trying to lead us the right way. I mean, you need to think about that. Remember, all the rest of the demonics are going against him. Okay, are trying to shut him down. The New World Order. It's obvious that the New World Order wants Trump out of the race. Former Republican presidential candidate Ben Carson threw his support behind Donald Trump on Friday, saying the billionaire frontrunner has two sides: the competitive campaign persona and very cerebral approach in private. endorsement by Carson, who last week suspended his campaign for the Republican presidential nomination, is perhaps the most high-profile nod for Trump since New Jersey Governor Chris Christie backed his former rival. You see, Ben Carson's very sharp, you see, and the thing of it is that if he knows who is left to be voted for, he's going to endorse whoever is the second best, or the best that is, left in the running. Okay, since he's not in the running, okay, so this is a good this is a very good sign. Now, the last piece of news is from the UK Express: bid to ban Muslims from replacing UK law with Sharia courts to be put before military police, I believe, today. A bid to ban Muslims from replacing British law and Sharia courts is to be put before the MPs today. MPs will vote on whether to ban Sharia law from replacing UK laws. I do not believe MP stands for military police. A private member's bill due to be voted on today would stop religious organizations from pretending to be able to act as court when they have no legal. Yeah, there's been 85 Sharia courts that are thought to exist in Britain. Didn't know that, did you? That's how fast Sharia law has been trying to step up in Britain. Arbitration and Mediation Services Equality Bill, first introduced by Baroness Caroline Cox, which has already been passed in the Lords, will also force them to stop discriminating against women. Do you think so? No, it's not going to stop them from discriminating against women. They're going to continue, and they're going to continue with their secret Sharia courts. You can bet on that. The bill comes amid growing concern over the way Sharia courts are being used by many of the Muslim community as an alternative legal system in Britain, and how they are systematically discriminating against women in civil cases such as divorce. Does this come of any shock or news to the world, how they discriminate against women? I mean, come on. It's been going on for 1,500 years. The bill was first introduced by humanitarian campaigner Baroness Caroline Cox amid concerns over systematic discrimination against women in these quasi-legal systems, including Sharia courts. She said today's MPs get the opportunity to help women whose suffering would make the suffragettes turn in their graves. Countless victims of religiously sanctioned gendered discrimination are being treated as second-class citizens, no better than the chattels of their husbands. Let me just rephrase that. Countless victims of religiously sanctioned. This is a religiously sanctioned, but this religion is called Satan worship. And that is a religion in many, many, many cults besides Christianity, true Christianity. Baroness Cox added, while the bill respects the fundamental principle of freedom of religion and belief, we cannot allow rulings which are incompatible with the laws, values, principles, and policies of our country. The legislation comes before MPs in a week where International Women's Day had been marked. There are serious concerns over the way Sharia courts are making rulings on marriage law and divorce with Muslims, but not having any legal status. Despite having no legal status, they are also providing families with an official marriage and divorce certificates. It is also understood that the all-male courts are rigged against women, fueled by a toxic mix of religious fundamentalism, culture, and tight-knit communities, according to a book published last year, to say the least. But anyway, that's going to be all for today's World Headline News. Thank you for listening.